Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another session with Mr. Smith, your humble servant, hopefully always humble. Being humble is what we need to achieve, right? Christ said, the meek shall inherit the earth. Meaning, meek means humble. Does not mean weak or sissy, just means humble. I mean, after all, it's not about us. It's about what the Almighty wants. Anyway, enough waffling, as Replicant Fish will say. And if you haven't checked out his channel, definitely check it out. Replicant Fish, with a PH instead of an F for fish. Very entertaining, very insightful channel. I aspire to have the way he does his videos and stuff. Like, I kind of aspire to have some of that in mind. Anyway, enough waffling. Let's get to the topic. As you see on your screen, it says college suits that could kill affirmative action. I hope they do kill affirmative action. Yeah. You know why? Because affirmative action is psychological warfare. It's telling the underrepresented races in these highfalutin colleges that they need help. They can't compete with the Asians and the whites and the Jewish folks. That's psychological warfare. That also encourages underrepresented minorities, and you know who they are. They're not minorities at all, actually. They want you to think they are, but they're not. Right? The quote black, quote Hispanic, and quote Native Americans. It inspires these folks to spend exorbitant amounts of money, get into huge college debt just to prove that they can get into these colleges. So affirmative action has a two-pronged effect against these particular people. It makes them feel inferior. That's the main reason. And it also motivates them to get into debt. For what? A stupid college degree that won't get you the job that you really think you're going to get? I don't care if you go to Harvard or University of, Idaho, with one classroom on a farm. What difference does it make? Here's the other thing to think about, and I'm just going to kind of ramble. English is English, biology is biology, right? Facts are facts, right? Chemistry is chemistry, math is math. History is history, right? What difference does it make whether you learn it at a place called Harvard or a place called Cal State University, Dominguez Hills? If you don't know what that school, that's a school in Southern California. Or whether you learn it on your own, online, right? At a library, at an online library, on YouTube. Shout out to UBTV, I believe it's called, and if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself later. But he has a YouTube channel where you can learn history for free. All he asks for is donations. Gee, isn't that great? So why are people so desiring to get to places like Harvard? And I heard a coworker the other day say, "Oh yeah, that guy's a Harvard professor, so yeah, he's way up there, And this coworker meant way up there as far as intelligence. I got to tell you, I didn't go to Harvard, and I'm not afraid to go up against a Harvard grad as far as intellectual skills and things like that. And you shouldn't be either. I mean, after all, they teach the same thing, right? They teach, because the truth is truth, facts are facts. So what is it? What is this tremendous desire to get into Harvard or places like Harvard? And I'm going to suggest that it's just because they want to say they went to Harvard, because somebody told them that Harvard is where it's at. If you go to Harvard, you're special. Wrong! You're most likely in tons of debt is what you are. And you know what? If it's important to Asians and Asian Americans to get into these prestigious colleges and they're going to sit there and grind out their grades and do all that, let them have it. Right? Let anybody, anybody. White, black, Asian, green, whatever. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. The problem is, don't get into debt, right? If you've seen my video, College is a Sick Joke, about the exorbitant, criminal amounts of money these colleges are charging to go there. Right? So I'm all for destroying affirmative action, right? Forget it. It's psychological warfare. And there are certain cultures that value going to these colleges than others. Just let them have it. I could care less if Harvard is all Asian. So what? An English degree from Harvard is not going to get you a high-paying job, because there's so many English degrees. And for you young folks and parents of young folks, what I learned was that you can get a degree from a highfalutin East Coast school, and then you want to come back to California and you just think that people are going to give you high-paying offers for jobs. That's not going to happen necessarily. What happens is some employers think that you are overqualified for the job. Some employers don't think that you're going to be a snob and they don't want to hire you. And so much about getting jobs is working with people, networking. What else I found is that a lot of employers, if you went to the same school they went to, they're more apt to hire you. So those are all things to think about. So don't think that just because you go to Harvard or just because you go to UCLA or whatever, that you're just going to walk out of there and there's just going to be a smorgasbord of job offers, $100K and above. It doesn't work that way. They don't tell you that. And again, it's in my opinion, it's criminal. They don't tell you that because they want you to go to their college. And it's about money. It's a business. College is a racket. I remember I went to UCLA back in the day, and I remember I took a philosophy class because I just had to take something for general ed, and I took this philosophy class, and the professor he was a youngish guy, probably about 30, and he had wild Einstein hair, and he was walking back and forth across the stage and talking about whether you could measure pain by neural connections, he called them C fibers in the brain, or was it strictly an subjective experience? And that was the class. And, I was like 18, 19, and of course, at 18 and 19, I fell for the nonsense. I fell for the lies. I thought this guy was a genius. Oh, he's amazing. Then as I got older and I looked back and I thought, man, he's just an actor. He's just working it. Man, they're just working it. Those professorial jobs are quite high-paying jobs, and they're pretty easy. So if you can work it, if you can get up on the stage and impress the crowd, then, hey, more power to you. And it was completely useless, that class. Completely useless. That's something you maybe talk about with your friends while you're, you know, hanging out, but to pay money for a class, yeah, come on. Oh, and that was just one example of the foolishness in college. I mean, I did learn some cool stuff, absolutely, but I learned more about my job, my first couple years on the job, meaning on the job training, than I ever did in college. College was just passing tests, trying to get through it so you can get that degree, jumping through the hoops. So, yeah, let's just destroy affirmative action. I'm all for it. And then just ignore it altogether. And if it's important to your family to go off to the college and you want to spend that kind of money, maybe you have the money and it's not a problem for you. Okay? But please, 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 whatever race you are, it's not worth getting in debt. I know some people that are in their 50s that still have $50,000, $40,000 worth of college debt. They're just never going to pay that thing off. You're a slave as long as you're in debt. You're better off right out of high school, figuring out what you want to do, work for a business, tell this business guy, maybe let's say you want to be a mechanic. Mechanics make really good money, and the way the economy's going, people are going to be holding onto their cars much longer than they did in the past, because nobody can afford cars these days. Did you know that the average price of a new car, the average price is about $45,000? Do you know the average income, family income in the United States is like around $40,000? Okay, there's something really wrong with that picture. That means the average person is not going to be able to afford a new car at all. And the used car prices are through the roof as well. I'm holding on to my cars. I have a car and a truck, and they're getting pretty old. But I keep them up. Do my best to keep them looking nice. And hey, no car payment. But people are holding on to here's my point. People are holding on to their cars now. So mechanics are gonna, and anybody that can fix anything is going to make good money and be very valued. So for some of you, instead of going off to college, for some of you young folks, you might be better off going to a mechanic shop, for example, and telling the owner of the mechanic shop, hey, I'll work for free a couple days if you teach me the business. Teach me all about this and that and the other thing. The 3Ds, this, that, and the other thing. That's funny stuff. Anyway, the 3Ds, this, that, and the other thing. All right, but anyway, you get the picture. And then eventually, you learn a lot from the guy. You start making money with the guy, and eventually you learn all aspects of the business. You can start your own business. Anyway, let's read a little bit of this article. It's from Vox.com. It says, a new lawsuit alleges Harvard has a quota system for Asian students. We've been hearing about that for 30 years, going back to even more than 30 years, 40 years ago, going back to the 80s. Right? I remember, Asian students are just overrunning these colleges, these highfalutin colleges. So there's got to be a quota on them because you got to equal up all the races. And again, I think that affirmative action is no good because for reasons I stated earlier in this video. Anyway, but let's read it. It says, this week, a group that opposes affirmative action sued Harvard and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill over their admission policies. The lawsuits argue that UNC Chapel Hill and Harvard are considering students' race in admissions, even though it's not necessary to create a diverse student body. They also argue that Harvard has a quota for Asian American students. The Supreme Court has sometimes indicated it's open to reconsidering the constitutionality of affirmative action, even though a court opinion in 2003 labeled the matter settled for a generation. So another thing that this article does is it, again, reinforces the belief that people that have quotas against them are just smarter, right? Because they're going to these colleges, they have better grades, and in general they do, but it doesn't mean they're smarter. Okay? The plaintiff in both lawsuits is, quote, Students for Fair Admissions, unquote, an association of anonymous students and parents who oppose affirmative action. One member, the child of Chinese immigrants, was rejected from Harvard despite graduating as valedictorian from a well-regarded high school, earning a perfect score on the ACT, and volunteering and participating in extracurricular activities in high school. Last year, 94% of all applicants to Harvard were rejected. So the anonymous student's experience is hardly unusual. But the lawsuit outlines what plaintiffs say is a long history of discrimination against Asian Americans at Harvard, drawing parallels to the university's history of discrimination against Jewish people. It actually says discrimination against Jews. I think they mean Jewish. I could be wrong. I would, I'm a little skeptical on that as far as Harvard's history of discriminating against Jewish people. I'd like to see the data on that. Anyway, moving on. The lawsuit argues that Harvard has what amounts to a de facto quota for Asian Americans. The Supreme Court forbade racial quotas in college admissions in 1978. Asian American students make up a higher proportion of the student body at selective colleges than they do the population as a whole. Okay, Asian students tend to have higher test scores than students of other races. That's okay. Asian American and Asian students definitely, and their families usually definitely value grades higher than others, although there are a lot of exceptions to that stereotype of Asians. I know some Asians and Asian Americans that didn't really give a crap about their grades too much. Just thought I'd throw that in there. I'm not going to read the rest of this article, but you can see. And I'm all for destroying affirmative action, and I'm all for forgetting this foolishness about all these news articles about college. You never notice all these college is so pushed down our throat as if it's the be-all, end-all of life. And you see people driving around with their bumper stickers and their license plate frames. I went to this college, this college, this college, this college. In my opinion, we need a cultural shift away from that. Right? If you go to a college, it's hopefully for learning things, right? And to get the job that you need or that you want. But now we got everybody going to college, and their degrees don't even get them the job that they want. They don't even know what they want to do. They're just going to college because it's the thing to do. We need to stop this madness. And young people, it's okay. You don't have to go to college to make a living. You can start your own businesses. There's on-the-job training. In fact, a lot of companies, I've been told this anyway, allegedly, are so fed up with people graduating college and not knowing how to do anything. They have to teach them all over again anyway. They have to do on-the-job training no matter what, whether they have a college degree or not. So, this whole affirmative action thing, again, in a nutshell, it's psychological warfare. It's just designed to get people, it's designed to create racial tension, which the powers that be love. It's designed to make a certain racial groups feel inferior. And it's also frustrating to the students that work really hard to get into these colleges and don't get in. which creates bitterness and more racial tension. And of course, it promotes the idea that college is so important. It's just so important in life, right? That there's all these, racial quotas and people fighting racial quotas, and yeah, we got to get into these colleges. It just creates this air that college is the be-all, end-all of life, and it's just not true. So hopefully that just is, stimulated your brain a little bit, made you think a little bit, maybe question the reality around you. College is not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be for everybody, and it doesn't mean you're not as smart as people who go to college. You got to unplug yourself from all that nonsense. Anyway, this is Mr. Smith, your humble servant, and have a blessed day or evening, wherever you may be, and we'll see you on the next one.